Visualizing the Trump Presidency. I'm here with my colleagues Frank Baker and Sarah Clapp, and we have a fun and engaging discussion to have with you. I'm going to invite you to access the resources that we're using for this program, because you might want to copy them, use them, rework them, and make them better. The first link that I'd like you to take a look at is the Jamboard. It's called Visualizing the Trump Presidency. And the second link that I call your attention to is Frank Baker's Media Literacy Clearinghouse. So those are the two resources that we're going to be using. Notice how I've now made the transition to the Jamboard. Here's the structure that we're going to use. We're going to take about 10 minutes or so and review the agenda and take a look at the collection and talk about the media literacy concepts and vocabulary that we're going to be examining. Then Frank and I are going to model a very simple pedagogy of comparing and contrasting. We're going to look at the power of comparison and contrast. And then we're going to break you up into small groups of 3 or 4, and we're going to ask you to work with your small team to compare and contrast Trump representations. That will generate a lot of ideas. And then we'll take about 15 or 20 minutes to review and debrief, where we reflect on the learning experience and consider adaptations to the context. So all that in just 60 minutes, and it's time to get started. Just give me a thumbs up, if you will. How many of you have used Jamboard before? Thumbs up if you're familiar with Jamboard. Jamboard is a very simple tool. The last time Frank and I did this workshop, we used a tool called Mural, which we loved, but it was not simple, was it, Frank? So we think maybe Jamboard might be more useful because it's more simple, and simple is sometimes great. We also think that this activity is an activity that scales up and down to different grade bands, from maybe 4th grade up to graduate school. So we want to explore with you tonight how the activity that we're going to demonstrate may scale. So I guess we can get started. Let's do an emotional check-in. This is an opportunity for you to share with us where you're at this present moment. Emotional check-in. What's a single word or image that captures your mood today? So experiment with using perhaps the image file to drag or search for an image and throw it on the, there's my patriotic image. I might put that image as the image to use. I might type in a word that I'm feeling, because I am feeling happy to be with you, my media literacy friends. So Frank?
Go to the page.
Oh, yes, and I guess I'll put this in the chat. Let me put this in the chat room in case you...
It's already there. It's already there.
In case you missed it. There it is in the chat room, the link to the Jamboard. So click on that link and experiment. I'm happy to see some of you are feeling hopeful. So since this is an interactive activity, we are practicing right away with our interaction using the tools of the Jamboard. Oh yeah, I see, trying to reconnect. So let me see if it reconnects. Yep, seeing if it reconnects. How many people can be on a Jamboard? Only 50, I believe, can be on the Jamboard at the same time. So maybe that's something that's going on right now. And so another way for you to share your single word or image that captures your mood today is to use the chat. Whoa! Is to use the chat. So feel free, if you'd like, to use the chat room and put your emotion. I like this one. Meh. Cautiously optimistic. So let's hear from a few of you. Why did you pick these different feelings and thinking? Let's hear from I voted. Tell us more. Look at all these images coming up. Tell us more.
I was just very excited. I got to turn in my ballot and then it's been accepted. It's valid.
Yay! Who is, you didn't come this far to only come this far? Tell us why you're feeling that way tonight.
Oh, I just, I can't say exactly why. This is Sarah Paulson. So,
Hey, Sarah, thanks for
sharing. A lot going on.
A lot going on. Oh my goodness, there are some beautiful images here. And notice what's spontaneously happening already, Sarah and Frank, is that people realize they're playing in the sandbox. And so notice how they're resizing their images. Notice how they're moving them around in a nice arrangement, because we have an understanding of what arrangement is. It's the art of rhetoric, right? So we're seeing it happening before our very eyes as people are offering some of their feelings and emotions about why you've decided to be here. Anxious voter, I'm so glad you're here. Alive, I'm so glad you're here. And yes, if you haven't seen the trial of the Chicago 7, don't immediately after this program is over, go watch it, because it's breathtaking. Okay, so now we've kind of gotten to know each other. We like to start with an emotional check-in because we feel like we come together as a community of learners and we don't know each other very well. Some of us are here for the very first time. Others of us have been coming to these things for a long time, but we all have something to offer and we all have something to contribute. And so thank you for illustrating that point today. Okay, so now, Frank, we turn to your amazing collection. What can you tell us about the collection and your motivations for creating it?
Renee, thanks. That activity made me very dizzy. So if I start stumbling on my words, you'll understand why. No, a little backstory here, Renee, for those of you who don't know me. I'm in South Carolina, and we were successful in getting media literacy installed into the arts curriculum standards several years ago. And so I was invited by a district arts coordinator, would you please come and work with my middle school students? And she said, I want you to do something with art and with media and with technology. So here's what I did. I brought some magazines with me that my dentist has been saving me from each of my visits. These are magazines that would be outside the reading arena of middle school students. And I had 2 days to work with them. So the first day, they gathered in the media center. They were all assigned a different magazine, and I projected onto the screen, if you can imagine, Time Magazine's cover of Jay-Z as one of the most influential people of that particular year. And what I did is I took students through how to deconstruct a magazine cover. And I even incorporated some media literacy at that time, asking students, who is most likely to be the target audience? Who is Time Magazine trying to reach? A lot of these students had never done this before. And in fact, I said to them, one of the clues is to open the magazine and look at the ads. The ads will always give you a clue. And so the second day, I returned to the media center. These students came to computers where we had preloaded magazine cover template software, and they were challenged to recreate the cover of the magazine that they were assigned. I sat back, I watched them, I moved around the room. It was the most rewarding experience I've had in a long time to watch the creativity come out of these students. And both the principal and the teacher said to me at the time, Frank, thank you. We would never have thought of doing something like this. One of the reasons that I love the activity is its media literacy. We analyzed and we created. Okay, so let's skip ahead. Donald Trump, 4 years ago, elected president of the United States, and again, I'm thinking about magazines. And so I began to collect the covers and build a database. Now, on my website, you'll find magazines of Trump divided into two distinct arenas. One is illustrations and another is photos. Well, a photo is fine, but the illustrations are the ones that I think we're going to use mostly tonight that are really in many ways provocative. So here I've snagged some of the Time magazines, and if you haven't been paying attention, shame on you. But here is Time magazine, a very well-known news weekly, and the way it has represented Donald Trump over the past 4 years. And these are really interesting. The melting Trump on the top cover, and on the bottom cover, the progression of Donald Trump at his Oval Office desk, and the flood waters are coming up, and the third cover subsequently is he's floating out of the Oval Office, and then more recently, he's floating in a sea of the virus. I love these because it's perfect visual literacy for the older students. My experience is the younger students get a strong dose of visual literacy, but visual literacy kind of falls off the precipice when it comes to middle school and high school students. So I'm always wanting to try to engage my audience in my workshops. So magazine covers are part of everything that I do in my workshop. So here's Time magazine. And Renee, if you would go to the next slide, we have Der Spiegel. And Der Spiegel is even, the illustrator is even more provocative in some of his covers. So there's Donald Trump in the top row holding the Statue of Liberty's head, and blood is coming off of her head, and he's holding the knife with the blood. Really kind of interesting. Now, what I found out when I asked the question, who created the covers, I discovered that many of the Time magazine covers and the Der Spiegel covers were created by the same person. And I want to read you a quote from Idel Rodriguez. He said, "I don't think the world had ever seen a president quite like Trump. So they didn't know what to do, what to say, how to confront it. There was a lot of shock about what was going on. When people are in shock," he says, "they sometimes freeze, trying to figure out how to react. Trump's actions were a barrage, a constant daily attack on everything democracies are accustomed to." He goes on to say, "When my visuals started to appear, confronting this man, I think there was a release of emotion and outrage. It gave people something to hold on to throw back at the cause of their angst. People had had enough, and these images gave them the weapons they needed to fight back." He concludes, "The fact that major magazines like Time and Der Spiegel were publishing the images raised it to another level. Some people were probably wondering if they were alone, but the magazines confirmed their outrage was rightly placed." And how often do we see a cover, we don't even investigate who created it? And so a lot of what I do is to think about who was the creator, what was he or she trying to communicate? And of course, since these are published, most of these weekly, if not monthly, you have to think about the context that they were in. And so some of you that are on the webinar were part of our May webinar where we looked at the pandemic magazine covers, another database that now has about 1,000 covers, not only from the United States, but from all over the world. Because what other event in our lifetimes has had this kind of impact, right? So this is your opportunity to engage your audience, your students, whatever grade they might be at, 4, 12, higher ed, in using magazines cover to increase their critical thinking skills, their visual literacy skills, and their media literacy skills. So thanks, Renee.
Nice. Frank, one of the topics that came up in our last session was this question about, well, magazines, like who reads magazines? Magazines are so outdated. And why do an activity with magazines when, the students are swimming in a world of social media? And we had a great conversation about the idea that the competencies learned in analyzing magazines may transfer to the rich array of messages that exist in social media. And certainly an activity like this could be done with social media, but you make a really great point about why magazines are so useful, because we actually can easily identify the author, right? And we have a lot of contextual information about the audiences because of the publications themselves, right? For example, I know that The Economist is targeted to a global audience of English-speaking business executives. And I know that Time magazine is targeted to white, middle-class, older people, right? So we have some advantages when we're teaching analysis when we use magazine covers. Now, Frank, I want to talk about the power of comparison and contrast, because last time we didn't use comparison and contrast in our analysis, but this time we are. So could you just riff for a little bit on when these two images are placed side by side, what do you notice? What do you notice?
I immediately am taken and attracted to the color red. And those of you who have studied visual arts and maybe remember your arts education class know that red is a very powerful color used in a lot of products. It's used in street signage and even more. We're all familiar with the iconic red border around Time magazine, like the yellow border of National Geographic. It's kind of its brand, right? So immediately red stands out. And in the Economist magazine cover, it's a nice contrast. The red font against the white background, the red Economist label, the red hat of Donald Trump, the red tie, the fire coming out of the bottle he's about to throw. And then, of course, in the Time magazine cover, and this one was used in the pandemic database, where one of the most prominent images of the pandemic has been this image of the virus, right? And so is Donald Trump swimming in a minefield of virus? You know, it really, all of this depends on how much our students, their prior knowledge, do they know what we know? What do we want them to know? How do we know this is Donald Trump on the Time cover? Because we see him from behind,
Right.
You know, and what's he swimming toward? What's he hoping to get to? It looks like the White House. So these are rich. This is a, this is a teachable opportunity. I think Renee and I are doing this because we see this is a great opportunity, and we really appreciate all of you being here to engage in the covers and to learn from. I've been working with Renee. Where do we go back? 20 years, Renee?
I really like the chat going on in the Zoom chat, and I welcome you to add your comparison contrast to the Zoom chat. What I'm noticing about the Economist image is the way it seems to be channeling a Banksy graffiti, right? So Banksy, the famous street artist, makes art on the sides of buildings, and there's something about this. It's a cutout template that's been spray painted, right? And the signals of the spray paint are there with the dripping paint and the aerosol, the shreds of aerosol, and the style is, to me, reminiscent of Banksy. And so I'm really noticing that visual style is calling up memories of an artist who takes protest and social issues at the center of his radar screen. So let's talk a little bit about the activity that we're going to do next. We think that it's important for students to get introduced to media literacy concepts and vocabulary. And in our comparison contrast, Frank, we addressed some of these issues. Like you mentioned page design, and you mentioned color, right? And you mentioned the symbol of the over the head imagery of the water, right? And we both reflected on the thoughts and feelings and behaviors that these images created. We can also consider this in relation to the authors and the audiences, right? And of course, we understand that these magazines are trying to attract readers and they exist within an economic context, right?
Right.
They have different target audiences, right? And those images represent different values. So we can also think about it in relation to concepts related to representation and reality, issues about the credibility, accuracy, point of view, the stereotypes used, and how authority or authenticity is depicted through the images. So Frank and I are going to model a small activity where we try to annotate this page, and then we're going to break you up in teams where you do the same thing. So Frank, if we're going to compare and contrast these things, and the assignment says, compare and contrast a representation of Trump in a magazine cover, use at least one media literacy concept and 3 vocabulary words. Okay, you talk, I'll type.
Well, we already...
Useful sentences.
The use of the color red certainly gets attention.
And communicates a sense of danger.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to digress for a moment. This is not for you to type, but I'm very fond of the Ontario definition of media literacy, which mentions the word techniques. So what are the techniques the media maker is using to communicate something to the audience? What techniques is this illustrator using? And you have to, define the word technique first. And I think that's where a collaboration with an arts educator would be very important, and to collaborate with an art educator and art students as well. Good point.
One thing that I think is really interesting is this idea of the symbolism. And so I want to, I'm going to copy and paste another one of these things in here. And I want to talk about symbolism. When we compare and contrast, we see 2 different kinds of symbols used. Can you talk a little bit about the symbols of the water and the symbols of the protest art? Okay. If our concept is symbols, what can we say about symbols that are used in these 2 pieces?
The flood water, I think, in the Time magazine cover is certainly symbolic of maybe what a lot of people are feeling right now in this pandemic era that we're living in, that we are splashing around. We don't know if we're going to get back to normal, and it just feels like we're drifting aimlessly, hoping someone will give us some direction. And it looks like in time that the virus is chasing the president of the United States, right? He's swimming away from the virus, or trying to, right? So that's what I see.
I love this idea that the virus is chasing him. That definitely seems happening. In the insurgent in the White House, whoa, the blood spatter. Thank you. That's so exactly right. It's a more violent, it's got a violent, ooh, I can put this in here. It's a violent image in a way, right? So now I've used the sticky notes to indicate the violence. Okay, so you got the concept, right? I'm going to break you up into groups, and you're going to see that we have a lot of interesting Trump covers to analyze. You'll notice that I've made them really big so that you can see them, but for you to annotate them, you might have to adjust the sizing and everything else, right? So I'm going to break you up into groups, and I'm going to call a team leader. The team leader is really there just so that you can be assigned one of these numbers. See here where the numbers are. So the first team is going to be team 9. And the second team is going to be team 10, and so forth. So you'll know when you're put into your group, because I'm going to call out with a team leader for each team. Give me a thumbs up if you understand the playful, fun, and provocative conversation. Really, you guys, think of it this way. this activity is, hold on. This activity is simply an excuse for a conversation. The conversation is far more important than the product that you create, right? So if you're sitting in silence manipulating the Jamboard, you're not doing it right, okay? Just saying. This is an excuse to have a conversation. So when you get into your small group breakout rooms, please go around the room and introduce yourself to each other so you have some trust and respect. Otherwise, it's really hard to feel comfortable in a breakout room.
I see why you're in our group, Krista.
And so some of the words in there are color, typography, page design, content and ideas, symbols, headlines, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And then for authors and audiences, we're looking at authors create media for different purposes. That authors target specific audiences and people. I like authors and audiences as an idea for this because for me, that slide in and of itself is the vanity of the Trump presidency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Absolutely.
The image.
I've been trying really hard to put myself in the shoes where I'm listening to all of the things. And I have about a 40-minute commute each way to my school. And so today I was listening to a rally in which Trump referenced Wyatt Earp. He was in Arizona and he talked about Wyatt Earp and how great those cowboys were at taming the Wild West. And I was sick to my stomach because I thought to myself, that is exactly the show that he's putting on. And I don't understand how people are falling for it, right? And so when you look at this, it's like, to me, I was watching the town halls the other night and I recorded them both. And, you know, it was like Renee and I have done a project in the past with Spiro Bolos from the Chicago area, and it was on TV tokenism. And it talked about how certain ethnicities are tokenized in programming, especially like, you know, like your shows on television, you have your token African-American character, and they usually carry like certain ideals and values when you see them on television, right? And it was like the token African-American woman in the back that was nodding with her Trump sign. And I thought to myself, my God, this is like the producers of The Apprentice, right? Doing this town hall. So for me, these two absolutely represent that vanity.
So are you saying that the vanity is also tied in with his fans who are also expressing that vanity, those people behind him, right? Or not? Or are we just sticking to the covers here, or?
I think it could be it's how is it being represented, right? So like for me, I'm gonna do like a quick little one of these with my Mac and put let's see if this works. Representations and realities.
Very true.
So it looks like, do we use our 1 ml concept and our 3 vocabulary words? That was our task. I don't remember what those were, so if anybody knows.
I think it's on these slides. We can also, you know, you can just go back and forth and find the words. Oh. Mm-hmm. Not sure what just happened.
I think our host joined the meeting in the
Okay.
lab.
Yeah, I think we've used symbols, we've used text.
What about color? Like the blue in the FDI. Is it really, it's a sky blue, So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it could be the Twitter blue, just to
Oh,
reference the
Oh,
of course,
symbol.
I think it is the
of
Twitter.
course.
It's kind of inverting.
Inverted,
there.
right.
Yeah. That.
Using Twitter to create such a time of uncertainty.
See? And then you can look at it as you're,
Yeah, it's hard to see them both at the same time.
yeah. So I'm going to write all of these terms into the chat.
And I guess when it says RR1, RR2, those are like, it's representations in reality. So that must be those must be the concepts.
Oops.
Messages are selective representations of reality. So
Oh boy, something happened. I was chatting along so nicely. Okay. Authority, authenticity, stereotype, representations, selective.
all right, I'll do a different one. How about that?
Okay, so those are the words, and I'll do messages are selective representations of reality. Messages use stereotypes to express ideas and information. And then authority and authenticity are features of media messages that can be assessed. We've got it all in the chat, and now we can go back to page 11 and refer to that.
I did the authors and audiences.
Great.
Finishing up that.
In contrast would be that on the right, the new nationalism, he's really being shown as patriotic, I guess. Whereas on the left, he's a threat. The one is maybe potentially heroic, and the other is destructive. Compare and contrast.
Should we use like the features on the Jamboard to like annotate it? Like
Yeah, definitely.
for sure. Yeah, because I agree with what Ava was saying. For sure. Yeah, this one on the left or whatever. Yeah.
There's also like a note card too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sort of new to this, but I like it.
Did you all pick up this Jamboard and things like that, this note, or just by playing with it? Or did you have a tutorial, literally?
So, and the Economist one, also we can look at the words because the Trump era is kind of very neutral. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't take a stand. It doesn't have a stance, right? It just sort of lets you fill in whatever you want there. Whereas the other one says this guy is bringing in an era of hate, you know, and all these people in his wake. So, and it's also very different because of the style of the magazines and and you can also see how the Economist is much more elegant and restrained in graphic style.
Well, I haven't seen the Southern Poverty Law Center, this particular magazine, for a while, but I would say a lot of their covers are not this busy. You know how some people, like, you know how like The Economist has a definite branding and look on their covers, just like People magazine has a definite brand. You know, their cover always looks the same. I mean, it's people with people. This intelligence report, this is very, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the ones I have.
To it, oh, the color, see?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that red again. Now, I don't know, did it work? And then what do I do? Edit? No, it's fine. Leave it the way it is. So then, can you see that or no? How do I put it on there?
Oh, okay. You just shared your screen with me, so that's great. I don't know if
I
that's what
did?
you intended. I don't see your text box by the. I see you working
Okay.
there.
Oh, there. Now do you see?
No, not yet.
Okay, you don't see over above the faith and wisdom, void
All
of.
I see your icon. I think that's you, E,
Yeah.
in a red bubble, but
And
I
that's
don't
all
see
you
it.
see?
That's all I see.
Oh. And you don't.
I see
Oh.
void of. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I wanted on top
Okay.
of. Do you know?
Okay.
Oh, so
No, that works.
what
That
happened
worked.
though? Yeah, but if they enlarge it, oh, maybe we can't actually. See, I thought I was popping it right on top of that. Okay, it was being hidden. Yeah, is that won't work.
Elizabeth, do you have any ideas? So,
I'm here playing with you guys. Just want to.
oh, fun. Hello.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Who's that? What's going on with our slides?
Well, we were trying to play with some of the captions like faith and wisdom, he's void of. But then we're like,
I like
did
that.
not show up. I don't think it stays on the.
No, it is there, Elizabeth. I just lost it. I couldn't see it, but it's there.
Oh, okay.
I put it in black because I want it to seem like you're rewriting. It's almost like you're remixing the title, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I can absolutely spend some time trying to find the exact font, but you know.
Yeah.
Time is of the
Actually,
essence,
you know what? Jamboard doesn't give you much of that flexibility.
Oh, okay.
Not like
I've never
Blackboard.
used it, so this is fun.
Yeah, it gives you very restricted choices of design, which actually then force you into, other things because you can't.
Yeah, instead of focusing on the design, you're talking more together and about the ideas potentially, right?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, so where's the one? Okay, so should we put the ones that we want like over? Should
Why
we
not?
move with his hair on fire?
Go for it.
Oh, see, but it's not. Oh, geez, now what's happening? Uh-oh, what did I do? Ah. Okay, yeah, save us all
I
some
like
time.
that one. That's good. His hair is on fire. And now you've placed the sticky next to that and inviting me to see the hair as fire. I didn't originally think I didn't notice that. But
Oh, that's the first thing I saw.
I think that's awesome. Now
First
I
thing.
see that his hair is on fire. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we're singing that, remember Geppetto or Pinocchio, I got no strings to hold me down.
Yeah, you guys are all over this. Okay, I'm just giving you your 3-minute warning. Just saying.
Thank you.
Okay.
Definitely a liberal.
All right. So what do you make of these? What do you make of the contrast between these two images? I'm still like a little bit mystified by that first image. I mean, I'm trying to figure, like, it's almost like my brain wants to say it's poking fun at him. And I think it is, but I feel like I don't really get the joke.
Maybe he's dressing up as a president and he's really not a president.
Costume.
It's a costume for him.
The way that in Hamilton, they wore costumes, the musical.
He's a fake candidate. He's just pretending to be. He's dressing up.
He's performing the role, but not very well.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, that's I think the piece that I was missing. So I just gonna add that down at the bottom if we have some.
You know, Jason, when I look at this, I was wondering, were they flattering him?
Yeah.
Was that, you know, it's New York, right? Was that magazine trying to flatter him? And would that have been a motive?
You know, I don't think it's out of the question. I mean, it has some answers there. That helps me understand a little bit better. You know, but also the other piece that I'm trying to consider is the date, like that it's a year before. And are they first starting, is it a moment where we're first starting to recognize Trump as a serious candidate? I mean, he's so, you know, if you think about it at the time, like his whole rhetoric of, I'm going to drain the swamp, I'm going to, you know, that I'm going to bring America back to where it intended to be. I mean, are they entertaining those ideas at this stage? You know, a lot of the big scandals, I mean, of course, we knew about a lot of his scandals, but a lot of the major scandals of his candidacy, like that leaked conversation he was having, you know, a lot of that came out like the months before the election. So this would have been a year before that.
And he brands himself as an entertainer at that stage, that he was, you know, he had good ratings on TV.
Oh, that's
Maybe
true.
they were giving him what he was saying about himself. You're just an.
Okay, it looks like you're back.
Were your ears burning, Renee?
Oh no.
No, we were just talking about how fun you are.
Oh yeah, well, what's wrong with being fun?
Nothing. I said most fun I had in graduate school, and I did graduate school on 3 different times. So I can't say enough, you know. I told everybody that we thought you were like the Oprah of.
Aren't you wonderful? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do in our 10 minutes that we have left. My team leaders, Lauren, Hope, Elizabeth, Jason, Krissa, Chuck, Alida, I want you to go to this slide right here. You guys are going to be trying to find the reflections and takeaway slide at the very, very end. You see it there? You guys are going to be trying to help us do some synthesis of what we collectively noticed. Because you see this cool little part of Jamboard? I can move through and see what you're doing at every time. I love the way Jamboard lets me monitor conversations that are happening. And of course, you also saw me pop in to some of your rooms. So what we're going to do right now to give feedback is use the practice of appreciative inquiry. So rather than have the authors of this slide present, I'd like to hear somebody who's seeing it for the first time, and I'd like you to give some appreciation on something that you like and notice. Okay, we're just going to hear from 2 people. Who's first? What do you like and notice about this slide?
I really like. Oh, yeah. I really like the way that the imagery and the text, how the group really kind of created a true collage and used the different concepts like representations and realities, messages and meanings, and highlighted them for us.
Thank you for sharing. I'll hear one more appreciative. What do you notice and like about this slide?
I think that the critique is as artistic and well thought out as in terms of layout and design as the actual magazine covers. Like it immediately makes me want to draw and look at certain things more than others. It leads my eye.
Yeah, I noticed that there's some depth to the analysis too, like makeup to cover all the flaws, celebrity over presidency. So the main theme, Vanity of Trump, is there, and so are the like subordinate points. Think how easy it would be to write a 5-paragraph essay after you developed your arguments like this. Great work there, Team 9. Now let's appreciate what we see and notice and like about Team 10. What jumps out at you? What ideas do you want to offer some appreciation for?
I like that they asked questions. They didn't always assume. They said, is he enjoying this lollipop? Is Trump consumed by Twitter? That the images provoked questions.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Portraits. Who is he? Yes, those questions were provocative. One more piece of appreciation for this one, please.
I like how they put the audience for the magazine. I think that's very helpful.
Very helpful and very important. So they did some research there. Thank you so much for Team 10. Team 11, now we'll hear from people who are not Team 11. What do you notice and like about this, analysis?
Renee, I am totally drawn myself to the imagery of the past and how this president is constantly trying to bring us back to, when America was great. And yet that new nationalism is, crazy. And the responses that they put on the Post-its is like, whoa, it takes you back a little bit, right? Like, is this really where we want to be?
Is that Putin? Yeah. So they're provocative in their observations.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Let's take a look at this collection, Hope's team. What comments do you have? What do you appreciate about what they noticed and called out?
I appreciate that they said what time each magazine came in. So we
Sarah,
pre-election and just after the election. That's very helpful.
Sarah, why is that so important, and why does that help the analysis?
I think it gives it a lot of context and time, and we can think back to what we associate with that time and consider the images and the text in light of that, which gives a lot of meaning.
I hadn't noticed that until Sarah pointed it out, but the simplicity of, we knew it was going to be a little black, or at least I did, in November of 2016, right? Just that shadow of like what it could be, and then the explosion of the intelligence report article, and the fact that you picked that out, Sarah, from Time was like, really, that's powerful.
Yeah.
But what I got, Kristen and everyone, was the spring of 2016 was pre-election on the intelligence report, and there was all this, Confederate flags. It was there, and then November 16, just after the election, it became very dark. It became a dark time.
Right. That's a great observation. Let's make some appreciation on this team's efforts. What do you notice? What do you like?
I want to know what that empty triangle is. Is that a fulcrum?
What I loved about this is that I didn't at first recognize that the hair was on fire until I read the little pink post. It was like, oh, now I get it. Yes, his hair is on fire, right? So the symbolism there was not immediately evident to me until this team called it out.
The words added to the top of the one on the right, faith and wisdom,
makes it look like it was part of the headline, void of faith.
Marvelous. All right, now let's offer some appreciation to this fascinating work. What do you notice about how it's making its points?
Well, I find it interesting with the New York cover. I feel almost a comparison with the Hamilton musical and the phenomenon that has been Hamilton itself.
What's interesting about that is I'm a massive Hamilton fan, spoiler. So what that makes me think of is one thing that they specifically did in Hamilton is they had people in costumes of the period, but they let people wear hair that looked like their own hair. And so I think it's interesting that here they just full on threw him back into the colonial era hair and all. Like, let's cover up the garbage hair with a wig.
But I like the comment too, that it's a feminine look for him with the wig and lace, and that might actually be ridiculing him the way he ridicules women.
You know, I was talking with my group about, you know, the kind of grotesque nature that all of these graphic artists have taken to depicting him. And I'm looking at this New York cover, and this is probably the most flattering treatment of Trump I have seen in this, both in this exercise and how the press has depicted him. It's actually, it's this looks like it could be on some currency, you know. I just think it's, and looking at the author, it's Frank Rich, that makes sense to me. But the I just wanted to kind of put it out there. Of what we saw, this is the most presidential of images of Trump.
Oh, what a great observation.
And the least orange.
Now here we are with Team 15. Let's make some appreciative inquiry on this. I know we're running just a little bit late, but I definitely want to take some time to honor, what do we like about the interpretations we find on this slide?
The clownish coloring stands out to me for sure. He looks sickly.
I like the wordplay, grave, not brave, right? So they're calling by simply underlining the headline, right? We're invited to make the connection to Brave New World.
And also back to the Kristallnacht when all the books were getting burned. Right?
Yeah, we kind of went off on a tangent on that in our room.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Burning the Constitution, burning the books, anti-Muslim. Great observation. And our last one, let's make some appreciation on this slide. What do you like about how they've approached it?
I felt the same groaning when I watched these two.
Oh my.
I like their observations about the minimalistness of the New Statesman's fonts to call out the violence of the imagery itself. That's very true. Mm-hmm. The other New Statesmans we've seen have been more just the picture or the face. This evokes a lot more emotion, violence.
Great observation. Now we're paying attention to font. So thank you so much to the team leaders. Let's give them a round of applause. One of the things that we love about this activity is the way in which it activates intellectual curiosity. After you do an activity like this, now you actually have a lot of questions and a lot of interest. Most of you had the experience of bringing your world knowledge into your analysis, and that's something that we can really help support our learners to do as well, because they might become more interested in learning about the background knowledge of these images once they've had a chance to discuss and play and ask questions. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to Frank Baker for lending us his magnificent collection and starting us off tonight. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Really, it was a lot of fun playing in the sandbox with you. Try this activity out will you? And let us know how it goes with your own students of all ages. All right, we're coming to an end now. Come back and see us next time. Bye-bye.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.